Hello and welcome back to Running on Pixie Dust. I am your host, Annika. Welcome to episode 38. Oh my goodness, let's catch up. I have not recorded in like 75 years, so we've got a lot of things to cover. And I won't get into my usual play-by-play detail since there's a lot of things to catch up on. But we will be catching up on all the things. So get ready. This will be my season 3 finale, final episode before I start the new season. I will be continuing with this podcast, even if I'm not as consistent as I would like to be. But I appreciate every one of you that messages me saying like, yo, where's the new episode? Like, I'm missing the podcast. Like, where are you? Just wondering. Thank you so much for your concern. I am here. A little housekeeping before we get into the details of the episode. If you're new here, I started this podcast to align with my Dopey Challenge 2023 training. And that was my first marathon ever. And now I've done 3 Dopey Challenges, 3 marathons. That's so insane to me. Disclaimer, I'm not a coach. I'm not affiliated with anyone or anything. I'm just sharing my personal experiences and opinions for fun. And doing this just because I feel like it and I can't stop yapping about running. Also, if you have been listening for a while, please leave me a review and or rate me on whatever podcast platform you are listening to. I think on Spotify you can see the little stars and stuff where people have left ratings. So give me those 5 stars, please. I would greatly appreciate that. And let's get into it. Starting off with my highs and lows. My highs, I have been back to back. The lows being that I've been back to back. I've been so busy. I haven't even been home my last few weekends. So it has just been a whirlwind of living life, let alone trying to take care of myself and my dog. And then I wanted to record and catch up on the podcast so many times, but life happens. But I will say one of my final highs is, before I, get to the actual episode, because really this whole episode is filled with highs, let's be real. But I did have a birthday. I just celebrated my golden birthday in May, and I had such a great weekend. I had such great friends who really showed up for me, and I'm so, so grateful for them. If you're listening to this, and you know who you are, I love you so much, and I had a fantastic time. Not the ending I quite desired, because I personally just overdid it a little bit with the partying, and now we are paying the price for it. But you know what? That's off season, baby. And that's just maybe the way I said that, I was like, that's showbiz, baby. That's how I said it in my head. But anyways, okay. This episode, we will be covering a lot. So buckle up, sit down, get comfortable, get on your hot girl walk, get on your drive, whatever it is that you are doing, or if you're watching on YouTube and you're doing whatever it is you do, let's get into it. I will be covering the Springtime Surprise 10K, my trip to Bali. I also went to Epic Universe. I also ran another 10K in Miami with Lululemon. And then I'm also in the middle of prepping for Chicago Marathon training. So we've got a lot to get through. But I did post most things in real time on Instagram and TikTok. So if you're curious to know things as they happen, I do post quite frequently on those platforms. Follow me on Instagram at Annika's Paintbrush, and then on TikTok at Annika Hudak. I post some kind of wild things on TikTok. It's just there's just a lot of fun happening. I love to do the stupid trends, and I love to be a silly little goose on there. So follow me. Okay, first topic. Let's rewind to the runDisney Springtime Surprise 10K. This was the final race weekend of the runDisney season, and I did only the 10K, so only 6.2 miles. But since it's always so hot for this race weekend, it never fails. And because it's in beginning of April time, generally, I think it was end of March, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. But since it's always around that time, I never have any real racing goals or PRing plans because it's just too hot. And I knew I was going on my trip immediately from this race, so I just didn't want to stress about getting a PR or anything like that. But it was Hercules themed, so I actually wasn't even going to do any race for this race weekend. However, with the Hercules theming, I just had to. I love Hercules. Hello, I can go the distance. That's what it's all about. Like, that is the theme of running in my mind. And the medal was really awesome, and I just couldn't let that pass me by. So, of course, to stay on theme, I dressed as Meg. I had my little Popflex princess outfit. Popflex, please sponsor me. I literally wear you like every single day of my life. But they had this cute like lilac short skirt, the one that fits me like skin, and I got the matching sports bra. And I got some Meg accessories off of Amazon, and I already had a really dramatic like ponytail that I bought a few years back when I was Princess Elena, and so the ponytail lives on, and I reused her for Meg, and it came out pretty good. Like, I was pretty happy with how my outfit came out. I of course posted several TikToks and Instagrams if you would like to go check all of that content out, but that was fun. I did done ran with my friend Becca, and she was a muse, and so we were definitely on theme for that. It was so hot. However, while running it, like, yes, while it was humid and hot and rough, I feel like it wasn't like the worst race I've ever done. I feel like I've done some hotter springtime races, to be honest, but it was still pretty hot. My ponytail, I just like did not do a good job of securing it this time around. And so it was like basically already falling like before mile 1. And so I was like holding it up. Thankfully, like another girl on the course like saw me struggling and like gave me another hair tie to like help secure it, which did help, honestly. I don't know what I would have done without that. But I was like frantically trying to fix my ponytail while standing in the character line to get a picture with Meg. And of course, had to stop for that. I had to stop for my girl. And that was fantastic. I had a great time. It was rough, but you just have to go into Springtime Surprise expecting it to be a little rough because it's basically already summer in Florida at that point. Hercules was at the finish of this race, and I waited in a very long line for him, but obviously I was dressed as Meg, so I could not pass up that opportunity, and that was just so much fun. I basked in this enjoyment for a bit, for a quick bit. And I did end up going to breakfast at the Grand Floridian Cafe with my dad, and then a quick pop into Magic Kingdom to get some medal photos before literally zipping up my suitcase and heading to the airport because we've got next place, no sleep. It's off season now. We are officially in off season at this point. And I'm headed to the airport to go to Bali. My flight was literally that same night. Next place, no sleep, bus, club, another club, plane. So that was my quick Springtime Surprise recap. I'm so sorry. It's not my usual deep dive, but I think we will all survive. Moving on to my trip to Bali. Oh my God. This took up a majority of my month of April and was the absolute trip of a lifetime. I have to give you the lowdown. If you don't know, Bali is an island in Indonesia, and the whole point of this trip was to go to one of my friends' weddings. So for my study abroad experience in college, I did a program called Semester at Sea, which you literally live on a ship, and we sailed around the world to, I think, 12 countries, starting in Europe, going around Africa, up through Asia, around to Japan, through Hawaii, back to California. So like we literally sailed around the world, and that was the adventure of a lifetime. But I made some lifelong friendships from that, and I have a core group of girls. There's 6 of us total in our little group, and one of them lived in Singapore, so she's from Singapore, and so having her wedding in Bali was like a little bit of a destination wedding, but like not as much of a destination wedding when you live like right there versus living in the US. That's a major destination wedding because it's on the complete opposite side of the world. But basically, she threw it in the group chat like, hey, I'm getting married in Bali. Would love to have you guys there. But obviously, I know that this is like not close for you. And in my head, I was literally in London at this point. I was on my London trip last August in London, physically out of the country, and already planning my next international trip because that's just how it goes. That's normal. And with this group of girls too, like, we all know that when we say let's go on a trip, the suitcase is already packed and everyone's already got their passport prep. The flights are booked. Like, it's happening. And so when everyone started responding like, "Oh, I'm in," I'm like, crap, I guess I'm going to Bali. Like, never in a million years did I think I would be able to go to Bali. Like, that's just like a once in a lifetime trip. And there were just so many reasons that weren't even real that were preventing me from ever actually like planning a trip there, because that place has been on my bucket list for a while. And this was the perfect opportunity to go with some girls who I know would be such a fun trip to go like to this location with. So yeah. Anyways, this trip was essentially like 2 weeks, including my travel days. It takes 2 days to get there, and then guess what? It takes 2 days to get back. Kind of. You time travel a little bit, but that was essentially kind of the time frame that we're talking here. So I flew Orlando to Dubai. I had like a 7-hour layover, maybe not even 7 hours. It was like 6 hours or something by the time like we actually got there, because I think we were a little bit delayed. But I had a quick little stopover in Dubai. And the crazy thing about this trip is I work with someone who knows someone who like has family who knows someone. I know this guy who knows this guy who knows this guy who gives tour guides, or like he gives tours in Dubai. And so I got into contact with him and like gave him my travel information, and he literally came and picked me up from my hotel, because when you fly Emirates Airlines and your layover is longer than like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 hours, maybe my layover was initially like supposed to be longer, but when your layover is over a certain amount of time, you get a complimentary hotel with transport to and from the airport. So I had that set and ready to go, but I was not planning on like resting or sleeping while I was in Dubai. I was definitely going to go out and see as much as I could, even though it was like a Sunday night. But that didn't even matter because everything was still open and popping. So long story short, this guy picked me up from my hotel and just drove me around the city to all of the like major sites. And it sounds so funny to be saying this, but we went to the mall because that's like a major tourist attraction, and there's a lot of things encompassed within the mall. There's like a really famous aquarium. There's of course the like fountain and light show that are projected onto the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world. And the guy who was like touring me around like knew exactly where to go, the timing of where to go, where to park, like escorted me around. Like, I felt so safe and he was great. And so this just worked out so well for me. Like, that is kind of crazy that's just like how this happened. But all that to say is it was a quick layover. So then he immediately like brought me back to my hotel, got me some food, and then I literally transported back to the airport and hopped on my next flight from Dubai to Bali. So we got one country down of the UAE, and now we're on to the next. So that leg actually, I think, was pretty quick. I think it was Orlando to Dubai was like 14 and a half hours, I think. And then Dubai to Bali was like 9 hours ballpark. So very, very long travel days, plural. And tried to rest as much as I could. I flew economy the entire leg out, so I was not quite living my best life in comparison to my travel arrangements coming back home, but more to come on that. So I made it to Bali. I was basically gathering up the girls one by one like infinity stones. And I mean, not me personally, but it was just funny like how our travel itineraries worked out, how we kind of like picked each other up along the way, which was really cute. I first met up with my two friends, Eileen and Dee Dee, and we had like a very chill day in Bali. And then we decided to have a little stopover to Singapore. We flew to Singapore from Bali for 2 days and met up with our third friend, Anna. stayed in Singapore for a couple days, and that was out of this world. Singapore is freaking awesome. Very expensive, but freaking awesome. I did go on my first run of the trip and really enjoyed that. I think it was 77 degrees and like 90% humidity at 6:30 in the morning. So just like Florida, just like home. I was somewhat prepared for that because that's kind of what we're dealing with here. But I like ran through the main parts of the city, and I kind of just like eyeballed a route that I saw on Strava, because I don't even pay for premium. I just like looked at it and I was like, yeah, this looks like a good route. And I think I did about like 5 miles. So that was pretty awesome, and enjoyed the city, got some Singapore slings, and we went to the top of the Marina Bay Sands Hotel that is famously shown in the movie Crazy Rich Asians. And we went to Gardens by the Bay. Like, oh my God, this was just so good and so awesome. Of course, we were sad that our one friend who was from Singapore, Jasmine, she was the one getting married, was not there with us because, like, that's just how it worked out. But of course, she was busy with wedding things. And of course, she had like a lot of her family in town. So, but we were really glad that we got to go. Now we went back to Bali. The 4 of us flew back to Bali. And at this point, it is wedding weekend. And we picked up our 5th person, Nina. And she was my roommate on Semester at Sea. And it was so great to just get us all together again. And we weren't even all reunited until the first day of Jasmine's like wedding events. And that was so special, the 6 of us getting reunited, because it's been a couple years since we've all been together. They did all come travel to me last time we hung out and we did Disney World, and traveled the world again around Epcot. And oh my gosh, it was so magical and perfect. And I'm just like gonna cry thinking about it again because this was just like such a fun girls trip. But the wedding weekend itself was like a 2-day event with like 3 actual events within the wedding weekend. It was just a whirlwind. It was so magical, and there were traditional Indian wedding, and so we had a welcome party, we had Sangeet, and then we had more of like a Western wedding reception, and of course an after party. So it was just one big party, and I cannot believe like how extravagant and incredible it was. Like I didn't even know what to expect necessarily, but it exceeded my expectations in ways I couldn't even imagine. The actual wedding was at the Conrad Bali, so a resort there, and she had fireworks on the beach at her wedding reception. Freaking awesome, dude. Okay. But anyway, yeah, I did go on another run while I was there at that resort as well, which again, it was super hot and rough. And I think I only did like 4 miles, but got it done, man. I love running on vacation, to be honest. Like, I love exploring new places. I love being up before everyone else and getting the lay of the land and scoping out the location. And I just have so much fun with that. After the wedding weekend, we traveled to more of like central Bali to Ubud, and we had this villa that was like basically in the middle of these rice fields and surrounded by like jungle. The only way to get there was by motorbike. So we made the trip like by car from we were staying for the wedding to more like central of the island, and then we get there and we're not even there yet. We get out and he's like, okay, you go by motorbike now. And so the people who worked at the hotel came down on like their motorbikes, and we literally just had to like get on the back of these motorbikes, and then they took us up to our villa, which I was like, I am afraid of scooters, mopeds, motorcycles. I did not see myself being on the back of one of these on this trip. But seeing as I had no choice in the matter because our only way to get to our villa was by motorbike, I literally had to. And I was so scared the first time, and like I was just so stressed. Like, this was a scary experience. But then it was fun. And then once I got over it, I was like, yeah, I really enjoy the motorbike. They had like a special one too to like put all of our luggage on, which was kind of crazy. The US dollar goes much further in Southeast Asia. So, of course, we treated ourselves to like a really fancy steak dinner at this like restaurant grill place that was like at our villa. And it was so fancy and incredible. That was like our most expensive meal for the trip. But I think it was still like probably $100. So like comparable to getting like a really nice dinner in the US. But this far exceeded the best meal I've ever had. I'm pretty sure. And like I think we did get like a bottle of wine and stuff. Worth it. They literally brought out an array of knives for us to choose from. They were like, would you like the German knife or the Swiss knife or the Russian knife? Like, it was like, what? I had never been presented knife options to select at a steakhouse before. Like, that was pretty crazy. That was super memorable. I think the first morning that we woke up in this villa, it was just absolutely gorgeous. The sunrise coming over the rice fields, like euphoric. And of course, I had to go on a run. I think we were up kind of late and we had that super rich dinner, but still, the sunrise came up. My alarm was going off and I like didn't really want to get up. But as soon as I saw the sunrise, I was like, oh, we're going for the run. I had asked around to the people who worked like at our villa's like front desk about like where I could like run, and I looked on Strava to see like other routes, and I tried to get a little bit of my bearings, but it was really hard to tell. Like, he said like to follow this trail, but he had it just like written on this piece of paper just like generic directions, like follow this path and then you'll reach a sign and then you'll reach a building. And then, yeah, you're there. You did it. And so I was kind of going off of nothing. I basically just had to follow this path. And not all of it was marked. Not all of it was paved. But a lot of it was in the jungle, let me tell you. I started this run, beautiful, following pathways along the rice fields. It kind of starts leading me to this muddy trail-ish. The trail, I would say, was like maybe the width of my hand. And it was not super clear, but I was kind of just hoping for the best at this point. And while I'm not good with direction, something like a switch flips on when I'm traveling and I can like navigate relatively well, which is like kind of crazy because I can't do that under normal circumstances domestically, which is kind of crazy. But I did pretty well, if I do say so myself. I did run by kind of like a creek a little bit, like through a literal jungle. Like, this trail took me down like into this jungle, and at this point there was just like no turning back. Like, I just like had to move forward to get out of this jungle because it got a little bit treacherous and I didn't want to like backtrack at this point. My foot did slip into the creek, so I had a wet foot. And then I was also super scared of snakes, and I did not want to accidentally like step on a snake, but the grass and the brush was like pretty long. And again, this pathway was so slim that I, at this point, was kind of just like hopping and like lifting up my feet so quickly as to like, if I were to accidentally step near a snake or something, like maybe I could get away from it or, you know, not step on it, but like you couldn't see everything that you were stepping on. So I think I was honestly scared a little bit on this run, and it was dark because I was underneath like tree cover. So, and I was just hoping that I was going in the right direction, right? I did not have clear directions. So, trail running in a foreign country in the middle of a jungle with treacherous, venomous snakes and buggies. So, maybe I don't recommend that portion, but moral of the story is I made it out. I literally had to climb these like mud steps to get out and break out of this jungle. And when I had gotten up that morning, I literally said, I was like, maybe I'll run 2 miles just to like go see the rice fields and then come back. At this point, there's no turning back. Getting out of this jungle, the only way back to my villa was to go all the way up and around where we were, because again, our villa is like central in like the middle of these rice fields. And so I literally just had to keep going. And at that point, I think I was like over 2 miles in. And so I was like, all right, guess we're doing a big 5-mile loop today, folks. And that's what I did. I ended up running through like deep parts of Ubud, which honestly turned out so cool. And I'm really glad I did it because I got to go on a really scenic trail and go all the way back down to the city and then back up this like giant hill back to our villa. And I passed all of these like yoga retreats and coffee shops and like homes and just cute little overlooks. And that was such a highlight of the trip. And I'm really glad I pushed myself to do that and that it all worked out okay. And I didn't get bit by a snake. Didn't even see one. But I did see one at dinner the night before. And that's why I was so scared, because we saw one in the tree outside of the restaurant, like through the window, like the night before. And that's kind of like what made my fear skyrocket, because I was like, oh, they really do exist out here. And that just like makes it so much more real. Loved that. And then I really like, we took some chill time in Ubud as well, but our like last final adventure like of Bali was our trek to Nusa Penida, which is kind of like a small neighboring island next to Bali. And so it was literally like the Barbie movie. We like signed up for this excursion and we had to take a motorbike to the car, to the ferry, to a boat, to another car on the island. And what an adventure. Oh my God. But that was also worth it, I would say. We got to go on like a snorkeling adventure and we went to Manta Bay to see the manta rays. And I literally got them. I don't even know if you could see in the video on YouTube if you're watching, but I got some manta rays tattooed to kind of symbolize my trip to Bali, because snorkeling with a manta rays was so freaking cool. I just like was so stunned by like how majestic these animals are, and like that was so cool. We also got to go to a really nice overlook of Killing King Beach, which is really famous, and if you like look up Bali on Pinterest, it's like probably a picture of the Killing King outlook or overlook, and it kind of just showing like a peninsula type mountain. There's probably official names for what it's called, but that's the name of it. And it was really, really cool. So glad we did that. And then we had to reverse the Barbie movie. We had to rollerblade and then get in the car, the motorbike, ferry, boat. Like, that was an all-day adventure. And then it was time to go home. So sad. I literally cried coming back, and I didn't want to come home. I tried to move my flight because my friend Nina and her family, like, they were staying a couple days longer. And my other friend Anna and I, like, both of us had our flights like at the same time, and we legitimately called the airlines like, can we move our flight? Like, we're trying to stay a couple more days, and it just didn't work out. So I did, however, have an upgrade coming home, and I did fly Emirates business class, which is world class. Like, Emirates business class would be like top tier first class for any kind of like domestic flight, and then some. Because the A380, I think, is the type of airplane that flew from Bali to Dubai, because I took kind of like the same path coming back to Orlando. Oh my God, the business class had sleeper pods. You were like literal own seat in your own section, and then there was a lounge at the back of the business class section, a lounge with your own personal bartender and snacks. And like bar seating, like a lounge on your airplane. I was so shooketh by this and so amazed, and I was so happy that I ended up doing this upgrade. I had opened a Capital One Venture card, which is like, this is not sponsored, by the way. This is like just what I did to like eventually get me to this point, because I knew I wanted to fly Emirates, and I knew I wanted to at least upgrade like some portion of my trip to business class because of how cool it is. But I opened up this credit card literally the second I knew I was planning this trip, and I put all of my purchases on it to like meet the spend minimum to get the points bonuses. And I ended up being able to use my points to upgrade my entire leg home. So that just worked out so well. Post all about it. That was like such an experience. That was incredible. And then coming home back to the US, wah wah, boo, tomato. That was so hard. And I was so like post Bali depressed, and the jet lag. Oh my God, it took me a full week to recover. I tried using the time shifter app, which tells you like when to sleep, and like you plug in your whole itinerary, like out and coming home, and it kind of tells you how to like readjust and like when you should be using caffeine, when you should be getting daylight, when you should be going to sleep to help you combat the jet lag. But coming home, I wasn't able to really follow it too well. And again, the amount of travel, it was like 9.5 hours to Dubai, and then I think it was over 15 hours back to Orlando. Oh my God. So long, so rough, but definitely worth it. Like, that was the absolute trip of a lifetime, and I'm still depressed that I'm not there. So, but that was my Bali trip. Gave you all the details for that. Oh my God. That was literally the most perfect trip I've ever had. And like, I can't even believe like it went so perfectly. Like, I'm going to start crying again and be sad that I'm not there. But anyways, let me move on before I get emotional. Next topic, Epic Universe. Hello. Universal Studios opened a new theme park here in Orlando, and it is called Epic Universe, if you are not aware. But oh my God, Epic was epic. Never been heard before. Never been done before. Wow. It really was, though. They did have like annual pass holder previews. So pass holders had the opportunity to purchase a one-day ticket to visit the theme park while it was still kind of going through technical rehearsals and in preview mode before its grand opening, which I think was May 22nd. I ended up meeting up with my friend Alex and then her friend Jenny, and we spent the day exploring. I had such a great day. The day started off with like, it was pouring rain and terrible Florida awfulness, but after that passed, then the sun came out and it was perfect, beautiful day, and I had just the best day ever. So Epic Universe, if you don't know, has 5 immersive worlds. Again, not sponsored. I just like had a great time. They've got the Isle of Berk, which is from How to Train Your Dragon. And then they've got Dark Universe, which is themed to the Universal monsters. They've got the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, which I was the most excited for. And then Celestial Park, which is kind of like the hub, the main area, if you will, of where you like enter. And then Super Nintendo World, which is really cool. I just like am not a video game person, so like I'm sure it was really freaking awesome if you're like a Nintendo person. And it was awesome. I'm just like, I went on like the Mario Kart ride, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't play the video games. I don't do that. But it was fun. I met Toothless. Really awesome. Toothless the dragon. I ended up getting a virtual queue for the Ministry of Magic ride. And that was like unheard of because it was really hard to get them back when they still had a virtual queue a month ago. And now they don't. Now it's just standby, I guess. But I also bought a wand. I literally rode most of the major rides. We went to the Helios bar in the Helios Hotel, which is actually connected to the theme park itself. So that was just like a quick little detour. And the bar is really cool and like celestial, like space star themed. And yeah, I would absolutely go back. Like, I had a great time. I am so sad that like other people didn't have the same experience I did, and rides being shut down or not being able to get a virtual queue back when they still had the virtual queue, and things just going wrong and everything being closed. Like, that sucks. I feel like we literally just lucked out on our day, and it was straight luck. Like, we had the most perfect day, I would say. But there are still things that I didn't get to do, so I would happily go back, and I think I for sure will. And I can't wait for the day when they have it available as an add-on to our annual pass. Like, that'll be awesome. But yeah, had a fantastic time. Okay, next topic of conversation is the Lululemon 10K Miami, if I can even say it. But basically, Lululemon has been doing these kind of like traveling 10K races. And I think they've done one in Atlanta, probably like LA, New York, I don't know, all the major cities. And they finally came down to Florida. And so when they announced that they were going to do a 10K for Miami, my friends and I were like, ooh, we might have to do that. So I made a little mini vacation out of it with my friends Becca and Dean. And then Cinny also joined us, my dog, Cinnamon, and had a fun little Miami weekend. It was, of course, very hot. The race was, I think, May 18th, which was a Sunday. And so we ended up driving down Saturday morning and hitting up Vinny's for the infamous, famous rather, Caesar salad wraps. Like, these things are beefy and also very delicious. And then we, of course, went to the Lululemon Expo. We didn't go on the first day, so we honestly missed out on all of the, like, good merch. But they did have customizable sweatshirts and t-shirts, and we got somewhat matching sweatshirts. We got, like, same but different, where we got to pick out, like, the Lululemon 10K Miami logos that they had as options, and then they just, like, pressed them onto. Mine was a scuba, and then Becca got a hoodie, and so they were super cute. And we did get a discount as well since we were running the race. So with our bibs, we got a 25% off of that, which was really awesome because, like, I will take any discount I can with Lululemon. And yeah, it was a great race. It was at 6:30 in the morning, which I was grateful for because a lot of races don't start until, like, later for some reason. Even in Florida, like, a lot of races, local ones, I feel like start at like 7:30, and like that's already pushing it for the heat here, which of course is nothing compared to runDisney, like 5 a.m. starts. But it was very hot that morning. I think it was, like, pretty well organized, to be honest. Like, we had a great time at the expo. We had a relatively easy time shuttling to the start line for the race, and everything was pretty seamless. We did do bag check. We got there pretty early, and I was glad that we did that. I did meet someone who does listen to the podcast, and I'm so glad you said hi. So if you're listening to this, Kelly, hello. I love it when people come up to me and tell me that they listen to the podcast. That, like, literally makes me so happy. If you do see me, please come say hello. I promise I don't bite, and it absolutely makes my day when I meet you, those of you who listen, and I love it. I love it. But the race overall was very fun. I was surprised at the spectator turnout. I was also surprised at the number of bridges. There were like 3 bridges that we had to climb on this 10K course. So that was rough. It was hot, sunny, humid. I think it was probably at least 80 degrees when we started at 6:30 in the morning, and so only went up from there. The humidity was, like, well over 80s, probably into the 90s. And yeah, we were, like, running from South Beach, Miami, though. So at least we had, like, the ocean to help break it up with, like, a little bit of breeze, but, like, not enough. But Miami was so cool. I really haven't spent much time there before. I have taken a cruise out of the Miami port before, but I really haven't spent time, like, in the city of Miami, so that was pretty cool. I had such a fun time, and Cindy had such a great time, and it was so great. We ended up running by the Versace mansion, and then we went there later for dinner, which was cool. And yeah, had a blast. We didn't really do much beach time, but still made the most out of the time that we had there, and then drove back the following morning early because all of us still had to work. So yeah, great weekend. And then now my focus has literally just been for Chicago Marathon training. I am in prep mode. I am base training. I am running 4 times a week, about here and there, and then, like, maybe 20 to 30 miles depending on the week. So I'm going to be following, like, a more of a official 16-week training block. I am working with my coach, so I don't have, like, a written plan or anything that I'm using. My coach writes my workouts and my plans for me, and does all of that for me. So that thankfully takes a lot of the thinking out of it. But I start my 16-week block in just a couple of weeks. If you're following an 18-week block and you're running Chicago, that literally starts next week, which is kind of crazy. It's June. It's June, people. It's happening. It's happening, and I feel like that came so fast. Like, I literally was updating all of my counts for my countdowns, and the jump that it made from like the last time that I recorded an episode, like, oh my God. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up all of my topics of discussion. I cannot wait to continue this podcast and follow along on my Chicago Marathon training and then transition into the runDisney training. I do have the Halloween races coming up. I kind of forget about those because those are actually coming first before Chicago. But the big kahuna is Chicago. And then, of course, we've got Dopey after that. So got a packed year. All right, final segment, by the numbers, countdowns. We've got the Disneyland Halloween Half Marathon weekend, which is September 4th through 7th. That is 3 months away. Yeep. We've got the Chicago Marathon, which is October 12th. That is 4 months and 8 days away. I've got the Wine and Dine Half Marathon race, which is October 26th. That's 4 months and 22 days away. And then, of course, Dopey, January 7th through 11th, 2026. And that is 7 months and 3 days away. Oh my God. Definitely stay tuned for my next season, if you will, of the podcast. And I cannot wait to share all things Chicago Marathon training with you. I am going to be so dedicated this summer. I'm so excited. I'm really nervous, but I can't wait to talk more about that with you. And, I just got a little bit of a pit in my stomach, but it's all going to be fine. There's quite a few of my friends that are training for Chicago, so it's going to be so much fun that we all have this end goal that we're working towards together. And trying not to be nervous, but that's kind of impossible. So, yeah. If you've made it this far, then thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it so much. And I'll see you next time. Get moving.